Hey, welcome to the Conservative Caucus podcast. What I'm going to play for you now is a discussion that I had on election night as results were coming in on WLW radio in Cincinnati with my friend Dan Carroll. And he was with Gary Jeff Walker. They were doing election night coverage. I'm urging you to listen to these because it'll give you a sense of where things were going. And by the way, I kind of nailed it on my predictions, and they were questioning it. But more importantly, to get some insight into what it is that we were thinking on the day as a reminder, and some of the issues that were very important. I always have great interviews with Dan Carroll on WLW. So to connect with us, please go to our website, theconservativecaucus.org. Leave a message there. Help us develop this podcast by putting people on you're interested in hearing from. And seriously, any ideas that you've got, let me know at theconservativecaucus.org. Fill out our form there to get more info. Also, while you're there, make sure that you get grassroots lobbying tips, grassroots activism tips, our rebuttals to Democrats and their stupid ideas. And you'll want to get our Citizen Action Kit, which is available if you sign up on the top right of the web page. We have literally a grassroots university there that can help you be effective where you're at. We do grassroots trainings around the country, and we'll be doing a whole lot more of those. Certainly suggest some opportunities for some big thing going on in your area you'd like us to help train people up on and what to do. I often am showing up at those things. So with that, here's my conversation with Gary Jeff Walker and my friend Dan Carroll on WLW in Cincinnati.
Our next guest is the president of the Conservative Caucus. He's been a great guest on my show, and at one time was the chief of staff for one of your favorite members of Congress.
My representative,
Thomas
Massey, who was unopposed in this re-election.
As well he should be.
Exactly. Nobody's better than Thomas Massey. Jim Pfaff, good evening and welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. And yes, it was an honor to work for Thomas. He is the bomb. He's really great. So love Northern Kentucky. And as a native Hoosier myself, it's always great to be on with y'all. As I grew up, as Dan knows, with WLW and Reds baseball and Sports or Consequences. So this is always one of my favorite places to be.
So what are you doing these days as president of the Conservative Caucus, Jim?
So we're building out and re-expanding a build out of our grassroots network nationwide. We were founded in 1974 by Howard Phillips, an icon of the conservative movement. And I came on in the beginning of the year. They were looking for some new leadership. We've just finished up about $8 million of Trump independent expenditures around the country, mostly in the targeted states. And we're just making people aware of how they can be effective at the local level to actually change politics. So I'm bringing 30 years of experience in both grassroots politics as a general consultant for a while to try to help people get things done.
So, Jim, a couple of days ago, you made a very bold prediction on your X feed, and you were looking at worst case scenario, 291 electoral votes for Trump. Pretty bold prediction right there. Tell me why you feel that way. And based on, even though it's still early, what we've seen so far tonight, how do you see things going and are they going that direction?
And full disclosure, I am a human being. I don't know everything, but I've been handicapping these things for a long time. And I've missed it a few times, but I predicate this upon two particular states going Trump's way. Pennsylvania, which I think actually may end up going solidly his way based upon numbers that I'm seeing. I'm connected with Scott Pressler and Cliff Maloney, who have built out this massive voter registration and get out the vote.
That guy's done a great job. Unbelievable job there. Yeah.
Well, so far, Philadelphia and Allegheny, they're 15% and 30% respectively. And in Pennsylvania, there's a solid Harris lead right now, but it's way early.
Yeah, and it is because Allegheny and Philadelphia counties are coming in. Those are obviously heavily Democrat, but we've seen a massive upsurge in voter registration in that county as well. And I made my prediction before this data, but in that county as well, the early vote firewall in 2020 was somewhere between 1.2 and 1.5 million for Joe Biden. It's only about 400,000 for Kamala Harris right now. And Republican voter output in early voting is actually very, very good. We're seeing long lines even today. I'm getting reports from there. So I think, my belief is that Donald Trump's going to win Pennsylvania. And I also believe he's going to win Nevada, where you always wonder if the SEIU is going to steal it, so to speak, or, just do a massive turnout down in Clark County. But I believe that the numbers, at least in my mind, indicate that he's going to get that. And of course, I've got him with Arizona and Georgia and North Carolina also in his column. So that's why, and that's how you get there. But I think he could do much better than that.
What do you make so far of what Whatley and Laura Trump have been doing so far? We've been talking a lot tonight about voter integrity, and I'm looking at some of the stuff that Whatley's been putting out over the last few hours, and this guy is trying to stay on top. And any irregularity that he's seeing out there, they're responding to it right away. Is that going to be enough to make a difference tonight?
Well, we'll have to see. I think there's a lot we don't know about, but one. And I'll also add to that, your observation is correct. Whatley does seem to be at least up on these big things that have been taking place. Mm-hmm. Mike Davis of the Article 3 Project was also praising him, and I trust Mike's judgment as well. I'm not close to Whatley, but, there's possibly some things we don't know about, but there is in this. Well, we got to remember something. People on the Republican, conservative, pro-Trump side of things, they're going to be looking like hawks because they're already very worried about what may have happened in 2020. I know in Pennsylvania, that's one of the things that Cliff Maloney and Scott Freshler have added. And there's results because I've been on X Spaces where they were documenting some things live and then just talking to the people that are on the ground around there. So I feel relatively certain that we'll be able to do some work to stop any problems. But, something big can show up. And I really do believe we've got, in fact, my organization over the next 2 years, we're going to spend a lot of time on election integrity because the way we do elections, this is Mark Elias's election, the Democrat lawyer, Mark Elias. We run Mark Elias elections. We don't run American elections. And we run Democrat elections. We don't run American elections doing all this massive mail voting. So we're going to have to change that. And therefore, there's always a chance for a big problem that we may not be able to anticipate.
Well, I hope that you get some good sleep tonight, if that's possible. And I hope that we wake up tomorrow with some positive results. Jim Pfaff, president of the Conservative Caucus, former chief of staff from my congressman in the 4th District in Kentucky, Thomas Massey. I've never talked to you before, Jim, but that instantly makes you one of my favorite people that you work so closely with Thomas.
You do know how blessed you are to have Thomas Massey as your state rep. And it's glad to be on. And I love the big one, WLW. I'm a big fan, always on your side. So just call upon me anytime, and I'm glad to be here.
Hey, great work, Jim. Thank you very much. Great talking to you, brother.
Okay, before we get to a closing portion of the podcast, I would just want to thank you for listening to us, participating, giving us ideas on the Conservative Caucus podcast. It's really important to us. We're grateful for that. Be sure to check out the show notes. There's going to be more info there. I'll probably make sure that we have links to the actual predictions that I made on my X profile so that you can see and get a date stamp on there to see that I actually kind of came up with this. And, I've done this for a long time. I think I understand a lot about politics after about 32 years of doing this. So some of that comes just with experience and sometimes it's just flat out luck. But anyway, we want your feedback. Let us know who you'd like us to talk to on this podcast. These are radio interviews. We're going to do one-on-one interviews. We want to get your ideas on who you'd like to hear from. There might be something going on big in your area, and there's a key leader there. We would be willing to interview them. So email us at info@theconservativecaucus.org. That's info@theconservativecaucus.org, and let us know who you'd like us to talk to, give us any feedback, let us know how we're doing. And of course, click to subscribe to the podcast on the app that you're listening to this on or the website that you're listening to it on. And thanks for listening to this episode. Share it with a friend, by the way, who might be interested as well. With that, here's some final closing thoughts on this interview with Gary Jeff Walker and Dan Carroll at WLW.